All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to the Fantasy Freaking Football Podcast. You've got, obviously, I'm Julian. Who else we got here? Brandon, let him know.
Lavy Lav, what it do?
And James, he may be in and out. His audio is very poor. He was out in public and at the bar, not a good place for a podcast. But this is the
Fantasy Freaking Football Podcast, yeah.
Fantasy Freaking Football.
Tell him, baby. Fantasy Freaking Football Podcast. This week, we're going to be giving you guys the business. We had somebody reach out to us in the comments and ask us, can you tell us about your guys' draft strategy? That's what we're here for. We're here for you. We're speak draft strategy this week.
Yo.
So draft strategy. Brandon, if there's one rule you could have above the rest, what is it?
That one rule, right? We're talking about draft strategies for fantasy football. You want to think about numbers. You want to think about points, right? You always wait on quarterback unless it's somebody that's extremely in the tier one. My draft strategy is always to wait for quarterback, especially if they're going to be the run-of-the-mill quarterback that's going to get you the typical points that you're in a quarterback get. You always wait for quarterback.
Hey, that's a very good one. That's a very good one. So you know what? Let's get the business side of it out of the way. So these are our personal strategies, but what's most important above what we think even is know the rules of your league. That's got to be first and foremost for everybody. If you're in a standard league or a standard rules league, if you're in a full point PPR league, a half point PPR league, a league with special rules, a 2 quarterback league. Brandon and I have been in a league together for years and years now. And this year, they're talking about switching up, making it 2 flexes. So it's not a super flex. Can't use a quarterback. It's a running back, wide receiver, or tight end. And we've had 1, but now they're talking about making it 2. I like it. A couple years ago, we lowered the bench spots. Conversation, should we lower the bench spots again? So there's more available on the waiver wire. Well, now the conversation is let's keep what we have, but we play one more person each week. I'm a fan of that, but maybe you're not. People feel differently about it. But regardless, know the rules of your league. Nothing can be more paramount.
Because when it comes to draft strategies, knowing the rules of your league could be something as simple as who would you take number 1 overall? For example, would it be Christian McCaffrey or Derrick Henry in regards to a PPR and just a regular standard league? Derrick Henry, I would take him all day in a standard league. PPR, I would definitely take Christian McCaffrey just because of his ability to catch the ball in the backfield. So Julian is definitely right. You have to know. It's very critical to know the rules of your league, or you will suffer, or you would have somebody who's just did a little more studying than you that might get the upper hand just because they know something as simple as the rule book better than you.
Yeah. It's something that we all have the ability to know. We all can know the rules. So know your rules. Secondly, this is something that's very important to me if you have a league that you're in consistently. Now, if you're going to a new league this year, probably won't apply to you. Or if it's just an online league, you don't even know who you're in there with, probably won't apply to you as well. But whenever possible, know the players in your league. Know their tendencies. So again, Brandon and I have been in the league together. James and I have been in the same league that Brandon and I are in together for years and years now. And we know what each other will do. Of course, we know that we know. So we're always going to try to throw a little curveball here and there. Like, yeah, you didn't think I was going to do that, did you? So I took them around early.
Yeah. So for example, sorry to cut you off, Gina, but for example, you have what I like to call the homer, and the homer is going to be the person that their favorite team, whether it be NFL or college, if it's their NFL team, they're going to draft all the players on an NFL team. If it's a college team, they're going to take all the players from their particular college team. These are the people that you love to have in your league, unless whatever team that they're rooting for has a bunch of good players. But nevertheless, you can always count on that person to be a homer and draft. Depending on, I like to call that draft strategy drafting with your heart and not your head.
Yes. And one of my rules I have written down is draft with your head and not your heart.
Exactly.
So going into that a little bit deeper, I'm a big Cleveland Browns fan. I learned the hard way. I kind of want to stay away from Browns players. If the Browns win on Sunday and fantasy loses, I'm actually happy. because the Browns mean more to me. But man, do I love fantasy football. And this is like my team. So I'm competitive. I have some say in who I'm playing each week. So if the choice is Nick Chubb or Zeke, and I'm in that maybe 7th spot, so we're number 7 overall, and is it Chubb or is it Zeke? My heart tells me go Chubb. My head tells me you need to stay away from that and go Zeke, simply because I think Zeke has a better offensive line. I think Zeke doesn't have a Kareem Hunt standing behind him. And also, when I watch my Browns play, I want to be happy when anybody scores. I want to be happy if Baker rolls around and runs it in. I want to be happy if Jarvis Landry catches it. I want to be happy if Austin Hooper, David Njoku, OBJ, if anybody. I want to be happy if they sit Nick Chubb all day. If we still get a win, I want to be happy with that too. So know that those things, fantasy football can affect your fandom if you are a hardcore fan of a team.
Yes,
like I
definitely.
am for Browns. So through bad experience, don't let it. Just don't let it. There are plenty of players out there to take.
Yeah, and you also don't want to put yourself in a position where you are starting to pay. If it's okay to have fandom, just like Julian said, it's perfectly okay to have fandom, but you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're starting to choose to pick all your favorite players from one team. So now you're watching your team, and like Julian said, like you don't want this person to score. You're scared about that person, but you always want to come to the draft with a pen and a pad, right? Take your players, stick to it. Stick to your draft. Don't veer off course, right? Real GMs, and I know fantasy football is a fantasy, and that's fine, but you still want to have some level of strategy when you're picking players, and you want to stick to your game plan. You don't ever want to deviate from your game plan, because you get emotional and you get there and you see that one player from your favorite team that's sitting there that you didn't think wanted to be there. So it's going to make it easier for you to root for your fantasy football team. No, stick with your draft strategy, figure out what strategy works best for you. And also you have to be able to change up your strategy, because if you get the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th pick, you cannot predict what all those people before you are going to do. You have absolutely no idea. So you have to be flexible, be able to think on the fly. Don't get flustered whenever you have the top 3 or 4 guys that you want in the first round get taken before you. Don't fluster. Always have a really good, solid draft board. Do not come into the draft and wing it.
Yes. Preparation and not the H.
Yeah.
Preparation is key. Come up with that list and stick to that list, and understand. So if you have somebody ranked 8th overall, but you get yourself in the 2nd round, and that person you had 8th overall is still available, but you went, say you had you had 8th, somebody maybe had Travis Kelce as number 7, and then you had Aaron Jones 8th overall. Now you're drafting the 2nd round, and Travis Kelce is still there, but you're like, I didn't want to take a tight end this early. Stick to your script. Stick to the board. You rank them that way for a reason. And even if you say you're not doing the work, you just took off of somewhere, those people, these are people that are dedicating time day in and day out of fantasy football. They rank them for a reason.
Yes.
And now you're going to come across a lot of different rankings. So if you are in a league that matters to you, whether that's just competitive edge, just talk smack to your friends, whether it's money, I would say look at multitude of rankings and come up with your own. See what, and especially, I mean, maybe go with the first 3 rounds, the first 36, maybe the first 50 players they say in that order. Sure. But you got to think about it. That's in a typical 12 team league, 50 players. That's only 4 rounds plus 2. So you still got a lot of players to go.
Yeah. And on top of that, don't be afraid to trust your draft board and take your guy, because you're going to be in a situation where you're going to have the hecklers out there. James, who's not with us tonight, but he was partially with us. He's a heckler. No matter what your pick is, you're going to have that guy that's going to question every pick that you do. So you don't want to ever draft your team based upon what people are going to think, right? You want to go into the season in the beginning of any league confident in your picks and being like, I picked everybody that I wanted. I didn't pick based upon where I thought players should go. I picked based upon the players that I wanted. And there's a healthy balance that you have to have between reaching for players and drafting the guys you want. So if you have a set hierarchy or a list set up of guys that you want, take the guys that you want, right? Take the guys that you want, because that's ultimately going to make you happier as far as settling for somebody, because you think, oh, this person is supposed to go into the 4th round. I took this person in the 3rd round, so I feel like everybody's going to talk trash to me and make me feel like crap. So what I'm not going to do, I'm going to wait in hopes that that player is going to be there. Like, no, take your guy.
Don't expect somebody to fall to you.
Yeah, take your guy.
Do not expect it. Yeah, if your guy is, I don't know, say Josh Jacobs, you're a Vegas person through and through. You finally got a team. You want Josh Jacobs more than anything, and you think he's supposed to go in the 3rd, but you're going to pick in the middle of the 3rd. You've got the 6th pick, maybe you got the 8th pick, so he's gonna come to you at the end. I don't know if he'll be there, so you take him in the 2nd. A round early is not too much of a reach. If it means making you happy with your team, it's not too bad.
And if you are a Vegas guy, as Julian pointed out, and you want to take Josh Jacobs, make sure you're taking Josh Jacobs because you feel like he's a solid back that's going to produce for your fantasy team, not your NFL team. You have to keep that in mind. You have to be able to separate. You have to be able to separate the two, or you're always going to put yourself in a position to where, once again, you're drafting with your heart and not your head.
Correct. So I would not advise just going with the person that you want, especially reaching even 1 round is probably too much when it comes to the first 3 rounds. It probably is. If they're ranked a 3rd round pick, you probably shouldn't take them in the 2nd. And that's just truthful, because the talent in the first 2 rounds are so far ahead of everything else in the league. It's if you get an injury from somebody from the 1st, 2nd round, your season is in jeopardy.
Yeah, big time.
Let alone, and so the first four rounds are the meat and potatoes. They're the meat and potatoes of your whole team. Rounds 5 through 8, that's the gravy. But rounds 1 through 4 is the meat and potatoes. That's what you're eating every week. Rounds 1 through 4.
And on top of those first 3 rounds, like my biggest strategy is always going to be running back, because at that time, those running backs are going to be selling like hotcakes. Everybody's going to be stats of running backs. Everybody's going to be trying to get 2 starting running backs and at least 1 in the flex and then a backup for bye weeks. Like, that's going to be everybody's mantra, because you're going to be able to wait unless you're able to get one of the premier tight ends, one of the premier wide receivers, like one of the Lamar Jackson type that's going to be able to contribute rushing yards on top of passing yards, goal line situations, things like that. You're going to have to wait for quarterbacks. You have to wait for wide receivers, unless you get one of the premier top wide receivers in like the 2nd round or so. But for the most part, everybody's draft strategy should be running backs. It's like typically the people that has the most running backs are typically going to always put themselves in a position to win every week, just because the lack of dependence that a running back has on so many other factors that go right in the game. So, the running back is only dependent on the offensive line. A wide receiver has to depend on the play call, the down, the quarterback, the wide receiver catching the ball, running the right route. There's so many options that the wide receiver has to depend on versus the running back. You just hand it off. The offensive line is good. The offensive line is not good. You got the Christian McCaffreys. You got the PPR backs that can catch out of the backfield. There's so many less variables you have to worry about with a running back than any other position. That's why they're always going to hold the most value.
Absolutely. So the moral of all that is don't reach. Simply don't reach, especially when it comes to the first 4 rounds specifically. Yeah. Do not reach. Don't take. People are going to do it. That's why I said if you are in love with Josh Jacobs, and it makes it easier for you, and to you, like you don't really care if you win your league. You just want to have fun with it. There are people out there that just want to have fun with it. So go a 1 round early in the first 4 and take who you want, sure. But for all those that are listening that actually really want to win their league this year, do not reach at all in the first 4 rounds. Take who you have ranked, and then whatever scheme you have. So in the first 4 rounds, you should have, this is draft strategy talk now. Coming out of round 4, you should have at least 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers, or 3 running backs and 1 premier wide receiver.
Yes.
That's what you should have with the exception of Kelsey or Patrick Mahomes. Other than
Kittle.
that, see, other than that, and then so we'll speak about Kittle and Darren Waller. So do you put Kittle above Darren Waller, Brandon?
I think the one wide receiver, well, tight end wise, I mean, the only wide receiver that I feel like is in the same tier with Kelsey is going to be Kittle. I don't think Waller's there, just because I feel like Waller, still he get fantasy points, but he isn't proven that I would take him where I would take Travis Kelsey or George Kittle.
Okay, so to me, I'm not paying a first round draft pick for any tight end. Ever.
Absolutely not. Like the only person like that came close a couple years was like Gronk. Like,
absolutely, yeah. End of the first for Gronk back in those days, sure. Yeah. But even then, I never took Gronk in the first. I always passed on him. Yeah. I'm not willing to give a first round pick to a tight end, and that's something I live by. I would give a second round pick to Travis Kelsey if he fell to me in the second, especially if I'm middle second or late second. If I'm late second and he fell all the way to me, absolutely. I don't see him. Everybody listening out there, he's not 99% of your leagues. He's not gonna be there late in second. And by late, I mean the last 3 picks. So if you pick 1, 2, or 3, even 4, the last 4 picks, the second, he won't be around. I'm 99% sure. But if for some reason you have that 4th pick and he follows you, scoop him up there. Yeah. Now Kittle. So Kittle and Waller, I personally rank Waller above Kittle, but I would not touch either of them until 4th or 5th. And then Patrick Mahomes, I would take end of the 3rd, begin early 4th. I'd probably take early 4th, but if I have a late 4th pick, I may early 3rd grab him up, something like that. But I'm not going to reach for him anyway. Quarterback, there's so many opportunities. Don't reach for Mahomes. Honestly, if he falls to me somewhere in the 4th, probably willing to take him. I take him anywhere in the 4th if he fell to me. But Kelsey, only going to take him if he falls to me in the 2nd. And Darren Waller and George Kittle, honestly, I'm taking Patrick Mahomes over them. So I'm not looking at them until the 5th round.
Yeah, and on top of that too, like you always have to put yourself in a position to where you know the value of each players, and you know the people, just like Julian said earlier, you have to know who you're drafting with, because you're going to have those reachers that's going to set a trend, because a trend is always going to start whenever quarterbacks go and defenses go. That's always going to scare everybody, and everybody's going to start to follow suit. So you have to be able to, like I said earlier, to adjust your game plan on the fly if you have a quarterback or you have a defense and such that you think is going to go. So defenses are probably going to go a little later, but you're still going to have somebody that's going to start that chain reaction, because everybody's going to be running back happy, trying to, shore up wide receivers in their bench. And then they're going to see that first defense go, and everybody's going to panic. Yeah. Everybody's going to panic. And the next thing you know,
I thought I had 3 more rounds.
Yeah, exactly. The defense is going to start flying off the board. And it's the same way with quarterbacks, that, the Lamar Jacksons and the Patrick Mahomes are going to go first. And then there's going to be a waiting period. So once you start to see the Aaron Rodgers fly off the board, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, Sean Watson, everybody's gonna be like, "Oh crap, quarterbacks are flying! I gotta nab one." So you have to be in a position where and always have a backup plan. Let's just say you decide Kyler Murray is my guy. I want to rob Kyler Murray. You have to have somebody else that if you're willing to wait that late. And it is a risk, because you never know when that person is going to set off the chain reaction, and it goes back to knowing the people that you draft with. But you have to have a backup suitor at quarterback that you're going to be comfortable. Hey, I can roll into this fantasy season with this quarterback, and I'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. So something I feel passionate about is you need to know what you're going to do ahead of time. So if you see a trend starting, like, okay, I've got the 10th picks. I got the 10th out of 12 picks. And we're in round 5. And all of a sudden, so only Patrick Mahomes went. All of a sudden in the 5th round, Josh Allen goes. Lamar Jackson goes. Kyler Murray goes. Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers. And they all start going. But you need to have tiers. Like, okay, so if I have this tier, and the last one in this tier for me is Aaron Rodgers, but he goes before you, don't take a quarterback then. Don't do it. Wait. So say that tier of tight ends we mentioned. There are only 3. It's Kelsey, for me, Waller, and then Kittle. Brandon, Kittle, then Waller. But still, it's 3 people. That's it. And say, okay, I'm willing to invest a tight end pick in the 5th round. None of them are there in the 5th round. I get another running back. Or the quarterback trend started. That's when I grab my quarterback because I see there are only 2 left that I like in this top tier. Then I'll take one then. Or I see, you know what? There's just so much talent out there. There's still 3rd round talent on the board. According to my list, there's still somebody ranked number 34 overall, and I'm in the 5th round. Stick to your list. You put the time in right now. If you're listening to this, if you're watching this on YouTube, you care about your draft. Therefore, you are putting the time in. When it comes draft day, when this stuff really actually matters, follow what you got.
Oh yeah. You always have to stick to the script.
Trust yourself.
Number 1 rule of thumb for me is always stick with ones. So like how Julian was saying, like if you have a number 34 overall, that's probably going to be a 1 in whatever position that you're trying to draft. Yeah. And that person's there, you take him because you always want to play the odds, hedge your bets, and always try to have a number 1 on your team, whether it's number 1 wide receiver, number 1 running back, because you want to play the odds of the chances of this person getting the ball is going to be higher than the other wide receivers on the depth chart or other running backs on the depth chart. So you always want to, if you can get a number 1 at any position, you always get a number 1, whether it be a tight end, wide receiver, running back. You always try to get ones because that's ultimately going to increase the chances of them receiving the ball, which is going to, be a positive impact on your fantasy team.
Another big strategy point I have, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Don't be married to your picks, especially after round 8. Round 8, with the exception of your kicker, your special team, and maybe you're still waiting on quarterback. I did a couple mock drafts this week, and I took quarterback in the 10th, 11th. I didn't take my tight end until the 15th round, the very final round. And I was still happy with him. I got Gronk in the 15th. I got Irv Smith from the Vikings the 15th. I got Dallas Goedert one time in the 14th. So tight ends are going to come to you. And the thing is, you only need 1. I looked at a statistic today, and only 1 of the top 8 drafted quarterback or tight ends, last year outperformed where they were drafted, which means there are going to be some people you don't expect. Waiver wire pickups.
Yes.
That you will play on tight end.
It's always a factor.
Always do not be married to your picks. I will not. I can tell you right now, I'm in at least 4 leagues off the top of my head. None of these leagues am I going to invest a top 4, one of my 4 first-round picks in a tight end. I'm just not going to, because I'm not going to get Kelsey at the end of round 2, and I don't want to invest in anybody else in rounds 3 or 4. So I'm probably not going to get one of these guys. Therefore, I'm going to wait all the way until the end, because what will probably happen if that guy that I pick up is no good, I'm going to drop him. And there's always another one. And then I might drop that guy. And then there'll always be another one. And then maybe you find out that that the Bucks, OJ Howard is going to be the guy now. And Gronk is taking a back seat. Nobody's drafting OJ Howard. Maybe you find out the guy from the Panthers. Maybe David Njoku from the Browns finally steps up. He was a first-round pick years ago. Maybe Austin Hooper, it just balls out, and Baker Mayfield and him have a connection. And these are just things off the top of my head, obviously being a bit of a homer with those names. But you get my point is people aren't drafting those names, but they're good tight ends, and they can put up numbers.
And Julian, I 1,000% agree with not being married to your picks, because if you're married to your picks and you reach on picks, it's going to make it so hard for you to come to terms with this player is just not going to produce for me. Like it's like your patience extends so much more when you reach for draft picks. So that's why you have to put yourself in a position to where, just like Julian said, if you're not getting one of those premier tight ends, wait, because if you spend the draft capital to take a tight end too early, I'm telling you, mentally in your mind, you're going to be like, I cannot cut this player loose on the waiver wire that I drafted in the 4th. Then you're going to play the numbers game with your mind and say, I drafted this player in the 4th round. That number is going to be stuck in your head. And you're like, I can't let him go because I drafted him so high. Somebody else is going to pick him up, is going to do well. Opposed to like, hey, I got him for next to nothing. Doesn't really matter if I cut him, pick him up, try the next guy.
So my thing is the first 7 rounds for sure. I'm trying to hit home runs. I'm really trying to hit home runs. In the 8th round, I would love to find a guy that I think I can hit home runs with as well. After that, I'm looking for upside and
Doom, doom, doom. Opportunity.
Yes.
I'm looking for upside and opportunity come round 8 and beyond. Of course, I'm looking for a defense and a kicker. And truthfully, I may be looking for quarterback and tight end that late. But
Yeah.
if I'm set 1 through 8, now I've got 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 7 more rounds. Let's take the kicker and the defense out. 5 rounds. So if you're nervous about the tight end position, nervous about the quarterback position, you can take 2 of each. Then you still can grab another running back or wide receiver. Honestly, I would have gone running back heavy if I'm going that strategy up there. I probably would have went running back heavy. So I'll grab another late wide receiver. So you can get Marvin Jones, who's the number 2 in Jacksonville, who'll probably put up really good numbers that late. There are a lot of people going late like that. Antonio Brown might put up numbers. Who knows? There are a ton of people that are definitely available after round 8, especially wide receiver wise. And you may get maybe there's a running back that you feel confident about, but quarterbacks that late, man, so many. Don't sleep on Ryan Tannehill. Don't sleep on Trevor Lawrence.
Matthew Stafford.
Dude, those are the next 2 words out of my mouth. Don't sleep with Matthew Stafford, man. I read something today. Sean McVay is bigging him up, and Sean McVay is an offensive mastermind. Matthew Stafford, he may be a top 8 quarterback this year in fantasy.
Yeah. And I mean, you never know. You might have the Justin Herberts of the world who in a lot of leagues last year went undrafted and somebody just snatched him off the waiver wire and he hit.
Of course.
And he hit. So with quarterbacks, you don't have to rush and get a quarterback. Like there's always going to be opportunity for good quarterback play because you're going to have the unsung hero who's going to step up. One of those rookies, I can't tell you which one off the top of my head. Somebody's going to have a good season. And I guarantee you that rookie, unless you're James and you want to take Justin Fields, like but a lot of those rookies are going to go undrafted. So,
but the thing is, it could be him. So I think if there's a quarterback to be taken, it's Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I believe in DJ Chark. I believe in Marvin Jones. I believe in Urban Meyer. I believe that, dude, he's got 2 great running backs.
And I mean,
that'll catch the ball too. I think Trevor Lawrence is in a place to succeed. Good. You say what you're gonna say because then I got one more point.
And I mean, even if you decide to go like, you know what, I'm gonna stack my team with everything else but quarterback, right? Let's just say I'm gonna wait as long as I can because there's only 12 teams out there. If you're in a 12-man league, and you got 15 quarterbacks out there that I could probably play, so you're still gonna be, in pretty much green territory as far as plus or minus what you want to play. So what you can do is stack your team with running back and just have a quarterback to just keep your team afloat, to just get you that 15 to 18 and 19 point range every game. That will keep you in every single game every week, especially if you've taken the time to stack your team in every other position. You'll be fine at quarterback.
So if you are taking Brandon's advice, like he said, wait on quarterback. If you get to round 10, let's see, so you go past the first 10 rounds. You're we said 8, so we're looking at 7. Okay, you're around 10. You don't have a quarterback. 11 other teams have taken quarterback but you. There are 32 teams. So that's just about only 1/3 of the quarterbacks taken. I'd be shocked if somebody took 2 quarterbacks by the 10th round or even the 11th round. Somebody took a second quarterback already. So only just a little bit over 1/3 of the quarterbacks in the whole league are taken. I mean, Baker Mayfield is in a spot to succeed. Don't be shocked if he bounces back and has a good year.
Yep.
I mean, I honestly, so this is a little bit a homer of me coming out, but I think he found his confidence when he realized he didn't need Odell Beckham Jr. The second half of the season, he looked good last year. He was a playoff competitor, won a playoff game. That does something for a man's confidence. So
yeah, and I mean, still there are the unknowns out there that could potentially fall to you. So think of the Sam Darnolds, the Carson Wentz's that are with the new faces and new places that nobody knows what they're going to do. So those quarterbacks are probably going to be in a position where nobody's going to draft them. I would be surprised if like a high percentage of people drafted Sam Darnold or Carson Wentz, and like those players, you don't know what they're going to do. So even if you waited. you can take those players.
I got one more name for quarterback. Then I'm going to speak on one other thing, and then we'll speak on a last topic.
All right.
One last name for quarterback. Do not sleep on the Magic, the Fitz Magic, Washington football team. Don't sleep, just like I do. Any given Sunday, that man puts up numbers.
Yeah, so, but it's such a crapshoot though. But go ahead.
If you got somebody, you throw that man in, and he whoops your behind. So something I want to speak on real quick, and then we'll get to our last topic. Our last topic is what not to do for the draft. So we spoke a lot of things on draft. We talked about don't be married to your players. We talked about know the people in your league, know your team rules, draft your opportunity and upside, don't reach. Another one I want to get to though is don't waste picks on handcuffs. Don't waste a pick on a handcuff. You have somebody, so you have a Cam Akers, and you're like, I feel really good about him. It's supposed to be a first round pick, so I took him. Let me actually take his backup because I don't know. Don't waste a pick on a handcuff.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Do not waste a pick on your handcuff. These guys are up there for a reason. The people making these lists of who is first round pick, who's first round caliber talent, they know if an injury happens, you can't predict that. We don't speak on can an injury happen. If somebody's injury prone, every year they're getting hurt, like a Will Fuller, we'll say, hey, Will Fuller, if you can get him to play that week, there's a good chance you're getting 1 to 2 touchdowns, but he gets hurt all the time. That's why people don't invest high picks in him, because you probably only have him for 5-6 games. But so don't reach, don't waste picks on handcuffs, stick to your list, top tier people, and if you don't get a top quarterback or tight end, don't reach and wait. The last thing I want to speak on before we get to what not to do is garbage time. People will talk you out of taking players because they score their points in garbage time. Do not listen to them. I want you to take from this: garbage time points count just the same as all of the other points.
Dak Prescott.
Trevor Lawrence, I've been saying this whole time. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a good season.
Fantasy season.
Season, that's my point.
But I think you have to be sure to make that distinction to people, to say like fantasy season, football season, because they're going to tie it in with like Jags are going to suck, whatever.
Fair point.
No, we're talking about fantasy season.
I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a very good fantasy season because his team is very, very bad. And I think he's going to sling the rock in the fourth quarter every single week. That's why I also think DJ Chark and Marvin Jones are going to have good seasons, because the Rock, they're going to be behind probably 2 scores every single week. That team is bad. They had the first overall pick and got Trevor Lawrence for a reason, because he can sling the rock and their team is garbage.
And if you aren't good at, predicting the future, which nobody is, and you go into a season thinking like, man, how can I capitalize on one of those teams that suck? What you do is pay attention. And like the teams that have the worst defenses, so just go look at the rankings every week. They're going to have the defense out. Just go on the waiver wire. The team that's all the way at the bottom, they probably have the worst defense. Right. Start to pluck away some of those offensive players, because just like Julian said earlier, opportunity is going to be there late in games. You might not see, them produce early in the first quarter because they're going to be in games. But once you get to the third and fourth quarter, those little cheapies, the little catches, the little goal line touchdowns to make the game look respectable. Yep, they count exactly the same. So you might end up with somebody that you snagged off the waiver wire, and he pulls in you a cheap, 12 to 13 points every game. That's still going to help you win games. Like, don't be afraid to how ugly and nasty you get points, as long as you get points.
No, and if people want to talk smack to you, tell them scoreboard. Yeah, because those points count just the same. Yeah. All right. With that, we have 5 more minutes to go. Last segment is what not to do at your draft. Something that we've done. I'll speak personally. Something I've done in the past is I thought a starter was going to get in trouble. I'll just throw out that I thought Zeke was going to get suspended, and I'm a big Zeke fan. He's a Buckeye. I'm a Buckeyes fan, but I thought he was. So I reached like 2 to 3 rounds early and grabbed his backup, because I thought I'm going to get a number 1 here in the 8th round. Didn't come to fruition. bit me in the butt, hurt me all year long for wasting maybe like a 7th round pick or something on that. 7th round, you're still looking for starters. So that one really, really hurt me. So that's something what not to do. Don't try to predict what's going to happen. Don't try to predict suspensions. Don't try to predict injuries. When you go into your draft, you go with what the information you have that day and that moment, and you play and you pick who the studs are in that moment at your pick. Brandon, what do you guys say? What not to do?
What not to do? Some of the things I've done in the past is I've definitely reached for defenses before. So once again, it goes back to my point earlier. If you reach for a defense, you're going to be married mentally to it without realizing that you're married mentally to it. And that defense is going to be getting you -2 points, 3 points, 1 point, 0 points, and you're going to play it week in and week out, and it's going to cause you to lose games because you think, dang, I've reached for this defense, when in actuality, I could just like kind of play the odds and pick it up and play defenses versus matchups. Like if you come out with that strategy, unless you know for a fact that a defense is going to hit, and it ain't that many of them that you're going to be able to pick and confidently play every week. It's not going to be that many defenses because the NFL game is geared towards offense. So I mean, defenses are going to suck like some weeks. You know what I mean? That's just the way it is. So don't be married to a defense, and if you reach for a defense, you will mentally marry yourself to it. Don't do it.
Yeah, there are few and far in between Legion of Booms. Few and far in between. Yes, absolutely. So, and just because they were Legion of Boom last year, they could be the Legion of Poom Poo this year.
Yes.
So you're like, oh well, they were so great last year. 4 straight weeks they've sucked for me.
Yes,
it's okay. So yeah, like you said, don't reach for the defense. Don't reach for the kicker. If you want to take them in the 12th, maybe somebody else doesn't take them to the 14th, 15th. That's okay. That's okay. But we're not. Well, we've been in drafts where people are taking them in the 7th, 8th round.
Yeah, whenever it's like plenty of running back horses still out there to take.
Right. All right. So since James isn't here, we'll speak for him. What not to do, Brandon? What not to do? Something James has learned.
Don't drink too much before the draft and fall asleep. So don't do that. Don't be that guy to tap out in the 8th round. And then what we're gonna do is pick 4 kickers for you the rest of the draft.
So yes, whatever your drug of choice may be, whatever your indulgence is, don't do too much before and during. Do plenty after in celebration, but before and during the draft, do not. Now make fun rules. So we have in our main league, we have a rule where we vote who had the worst pick of the round, and so there are 12 people there. Everybody votes who had the worst pick. We go, this person. Whoever got the most votes for worst pick of the round has to take a shot. Now, don't let that get to your head. If you're like, no, that's the guy I wanted here. I'm so confident that that's the right pick. Don't let that get to your head, because 2 years ago, we voted a guy worst pick multiple times. We voted him worst draft, and he ended up winning the league. So
yes. So those little mental warfare games of like rules, don't let it
get to you.
Don't let it scare you out of being bold with your picks sometimes too.
These are all thoughts. These are all thoughts. It's what we think. All right. So yes, don't overindulge. Don't try to predict injuries and suspensions. And Brandon, what else? Tell them. What was yours?
Oh, don't get drunk and fall asleep.
No. What was the lesson you learned?
The lesson I learned is don't reach for defenses.
Don't reach for defenses. That's right. All right. Thank you for tuning in. This is Julian.
Lavy Lav.
This has been the Fantasy Freaking Football Podcast. We're out. See you next week.
Fantasy Freaking Football Podcast. Yeah.